Welcome to the Inside College Soccer Podcast, brought to you by Sports Recruiting USA, the college soccer recruiting experts. Now, here's your host, Chris Cousins.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Chris Cousins and I'm the founder of Sports Recruiting USA, and this is the Inside College Soccer Podcast. It's our second episode and we're really excited to do this. Obviously the first one went down really well. We had Bobby Clark, the godfather of college soccer, so to speak. This time we are really privileged, and we've kind of thought outside the box a little bit with the who to invite, and we've asked Matt Barnes, who is the sporting director of FC Helsingør, which is a professional club in Denmark. Differently owned by an American consortium. So it's an American-owned club in Denmark, and Matt is an integral part of that, being the sporting director. So, in this podcast, basically we chat for about an hour about all things going on in Denmark, his career. He also was a college coach, and that's why we've asked him to come on board with this podcast, because basically, it's inside college soccer. It doesn't mean they have to be in that realm right now. He's been a college coach in the past, I think 4 or 5 different colleges over the years, but now he recruits from college for his professional team as well. So that's what's going on with this podcast. So what's been going on with us at Sports Recruiting? I thought I'd give you a little update. It's now we're signing the last couple of players for our 2020 class, heavily started on our 2021s, 22s. It's coming up to showcase season. Basically, it's now November 3rd. I'm recording this, so we've got a number of showcases in December ourselves as a company. We've got one in Denmark with Helsingør, weirdly, or coincidentally, probably is probably the right word to use there. We have our Florida tournament, we have a UK event, and we have a few others. So we're just knee deep in that at the minute. Recruiting. The players every single year are just getting better and better. Personally, still in the trenches, getting the players, recruiting them, try to find unearthed talent, helping the college coaches to find players they couldn't otherwise find. So that's what we're doing as a company at the minute. So moving forward, this podcast, it's about an hour long. We've got lots more of these podcasts to come. We're recording a few this week, so really excited about that one. So Matt Barnes here, top guy, known him for a while, working on a few projects together. Really appreciate him taking his time to on a Sunday as well to record and let you guys listen to what the Helsingør project is about, what he's up to, and everything. Gives a bit of advice to players about turning pro, and just a few other things as well. So that's it. So rather than listen to me talk for much longer, let's get right into it. Okay, Matt, first of all, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Obviously, before this interview started, I've done a little preview of what's going to happen, so the guys have listened to this right now can actually hear already about you. But do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about your background, and just give us a 2-minute quick intro on yourself, really.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Chris. You and I have known each other for a while and have some kind of concurrent projects we're working on, so I'm excited to get a chance to get on here and talk with you as usual, and speak to your audience a little bit about, some of the questions you might have. But I've had a pretty crazy story over the last 10 years. So originally from Bakersfield, California, and I about 10 years ago made the decision that I was going to walk away from a 15-year teaching career. I owned a business in Bakersfield and was running a moderately large youth club in Bakersfield, and just decided that I wanted to get away and start following my passion and kind of do something that I thought I was gifted in. So left Bakersfield and got back into coaching full time, and jumped into the college ranks, and during that time, I had some great experiences and opportunities to turn around some programs, and did the same in the USL, the PDL, and the NPSL, and those opportunities kind of jumped me into a pretty unique opportunity to coach a national team, one of the few Americans that's had the opportunity to do something like that. That was a great experience for me, and I'm currently involved in a really cool project with an American ownership group that's purchased a club in Helsingør, Denmark, and real fortunate to be involved with that. So that's kind of my crazy last 8 to 9 years in a nutshell.
yeah. No, yeah, that's kind of that's a lot more brief than I thought you'd be like. I thought I've said 2 minutes here. It's definitely going to be 10 minutes because you have so many things to talk about. That's cool. All right, we'll flip it around a little bit. So the Helsingør thing, that's what a lot of people are interested in. Like I get asked probably daily actually, like what's this club in Denmark? That's the Americans that are on. Like what's the thing? Why are you guys working with them? Like tell me about it. I genuinely get asked all the time about it, mostly from players trying to get tryouts, but it's to get a lot of like random people. But yeah, just tell us like a little bit about the whole project, how it started, how you got involved, what you tried to do with it, and yeah, let's go from there.
Yeah, so look, I'm working underneath an American ownership group. I'll get into that in a minute, but one of the owners and the chairman is a gentleman named Jordan Gardner who lives in the Bay Area, and Jordan is a good friend of mine. And I met Jordan when I took over a university job. So I got that job. I was coaching in the PDL at that point, and had a late summer run in the PDL, and got the San Francisco State job really, really late in the summer. So I showed up on campus about a week before the season started. And Jordan was actually the first person to reach out to me at that point. He was running a men's league team and playing on it and coaching it, and jack of all trades. And Jordan called and said, "Hey, do you want to get a preseason game with our men's league team?" So yeah, we needed one, and we were able to do that. So I met Jordan at that game, and a week later he called me for a coffee, and we sat down and had a coffee, and the conversation came up about some ways that he could get involved in soccer in a professional level, semi-professional level. And I had just happened to meet Nick Schwimmer, who is one of the FC Helsingør owners, who had started a PDL team in the Bay Area. So I connected Jordan and Nick, and Nick ended up hiring Jordan to come in and take over the Burlingame Dragons, if you remember that name. But they had a great PDL team for a while, and Jordan got involved in there. We followed each other's careers ever since. And when I was in Turks and Caicos at the last game, we were in the Gold Cup, qualifying, and Jordan actually flew out for that game that we won. We won a big game, St. Vincent's in the Grenadines, and Jordan was there for that. And
did he tell you he was going to be there?
Yeah. So we had a coffee the next day, and he said, "Hey, look, this is a project I'm pulling the trigger on," and it asked me if I'd be interested in being involved, and I said, "Yeah, it's very interesting to me." And the position since then has kind of evolved into this sporting director position, which I wasn't originally hired to do. But
what were you originally hired to do?
Yeah, I was originally kind of they wanted me to come in because I guess my extensive involvement with the college game and the PDL, USL, and PSL had a pretty good network in the United States. So I was originally hired to come in and help do some talent identification and maybe a little bit of administrative stuff, kind of working as Jordan's right-hand man. But once we got on the ground in Denmark and Helsingør, things changed, and projects like this are never, they're never what you expect initially. So it's definitely taken some twists and turns. And
so to just jump in there a second, and not like to give too much away, like, but what twists, what wasn't expected? You obviously went in there thinking, hey, I can sit behind a desk and do some talent ID, and that's not happened, has it? Obviously, you've got a lot of different roles on the table now, but like, what were we expecting versus what's actually happened? Obviously, from what you can tell me.
Well, look, the biggest thing that happened is we got controlling interest of the club, right, when they were, crashing through relegation. So we were relegated from the first division and the second division last year. We obviously tried to get in and make some changes to save that, but it was a club on the on the cusp of a double relegation. They were in the Super League 2 years ago. They got relegated there and then got relegated from the first division into the second division. So just dealing with the fallout that comes from, a double relegation, the loss in funding and TV revenue. And, when you get to the second division, it's a lot different than the first division, I guess is what I'm saying. So just that in itself, going through that promotion relegation process, was a first for me, and being part of a team that had been relegated and all the fallout that comes with that. You ultimately realize, that's the people ask all the time, what's the difference between, soccer in the States and soccer in Europe? And it's promotion relegation. It has a real and genuine effect on people and players and livelihood. And was difficult to say the least. So I think we, some of the targets we had set, some of the early goals that we had set about, running the club and attracting talent, things that changes when you get relegated, right? So, just dealing with the changing nature of the club situation itself was, it was a lot of work.
Was it a lot harder than you thought coming in? Do you think it was going to be pretty easy with this American ownership group and kind of the bells and whistles and stuff like that, or is it easier than you thought it'd be, or harder?
No, it's much harder. Yeah, I think we always were smart enough to realize, anytime you have a foreign ownership group, it's going to be hard anywhere you are. So we understood that it was going to be difficult and challenging. I don't think we thought it would be this difficult and this challenging. Just, not only, are you an American in the, in the international football game, but it's, it's the first time we've gone in to do this type of thing. And as far as I know, look, there's some American ownership groups in Europe, but there's not a lot of them actually on the ground working in Europe. So that's one of the other things that changed is, Denmark's an amazing country, and we've met so many amazing people, but it's still a foreign country. Their economics are different. Their way of doing things is different. It's more of a socialist country, so things are just different, right? So, in some senses, you can never really plan for, the things you're going to run into. So I think we were smart enough to understand it was going to be difficult. I did not think it would be this difficult. And then, obviously the transition from a head coach into a sporting director role has been different for me. And I'm learning a lot and learning on the run, but it's just been an amazing experience, and I've loved every minute of it so far.
What does the sporting director do? Obviously it's a nice title, but what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing is you can jump around and find sporting directors. It's never the same, right? One sporting director may actually be in charge of, only talent identification at one club, and they may have a whole list of things that fall under them in another club. And look, there's a lot of clubs that don't even use a sporting director. They'll use a general manager or some other setup. And I guess ultimately that's what I really enjoy about working for Jordan in this group is they've treated it like a startup business. They think outside of the box, and instead of just setting up traditional roles, they're really saying, hey, what's best for this project, and how can we affect this project positively? And that's the role that they came back to me with after several months, because we have a gentleman named Brian Gellert on the ground in Denmark, who I think is probably one of the best talent identification guys, and he's listed as our chief scout. And but he also works, hand in hand with me in the sporting director role. So it's been very interesting. It's I would say a very non-traditional title and a non-traditional role for me. But if I had to describe my daily job, I just did a presentation for our own staff and our own. I did a big a talk with our VIP lounge and a lot of our sponsors, just kind of talking about my role. And so what I've done is I've come in and really identified 10 processes that we need to improve on, anywhere from, creating pathways from our academy to the first team, creating, linear ideas about recruiting and talent identification, So I've identified these 10 processes that we've worked on, and we've started to build into our daily regime. And then I identified six things that our first team needs to do to function better. Things like working in the community, things like working with our sponsors, working with our fan club, better presence with our mother clubs. So really, I would say within the first year, that would be the best way to describe my job is creating processes for the club, and then just creating our identity. And I guess for somebody like me, I've taken over so many poor programs and had the opportunity to turn them around, that just building these processes and trying to build a great business or a great club or a great team. It's something I've worked hard on, and that's trying to do that now. How do I affect the culture of this club from the sporting director role instead of a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of known for like turning things around, like you said. Like you got like the national team stuff, you got the college stuff, you got the PDL stuff. Like you kind of turned everything around. So you kind of touched upon like day-to-day stuff. I knowing speaking to you probably every other day or whatever, I know that your day-to-day is completely different. You could be on a flight one day, in Texas one day, in Denmark the other day. What is kind of a typical day-to-day, if there is one whatsoever? There probably isn't one. But just kind of give me in the last week, give me the last week. What's been going on apart from flying across the world probably?
Yeah, it's crazy. It depends on where I'm at. So, like 2 weeks ago, I spent almost 14 days in Denmark, and the flight schedule I had to take took me from Denmark further east into Istanbul, Turkey, and then I had to fly all the way to the States. And then once I get back to the States, I've been driving. I've been flying back on Saturdays for some reason, and I go directly from Austin, drive back to San Antonio, and jump into the booth at San Antonio FC, and I've been doing color commentary for those guys. So in the last 2 trips to Europe, I've had to go directly from the airport back to the booth at SAFC. So yeah, that keeps me busy. But look, a typical day is difficult because Denmark's 7 hours ahead of us at any given time, and it's me working with Brian Gellert, our chief scout, on a daily basis, working on, some talent identification, first team issues that come up. It's weekly. We do Zoom calls with the first team and the first team staff, and then daily calls with our ownership group, Jordan Gardner, Jim Kirks, who's our CEO, another American. So it changes day to day, but I guess that's what I like about it. It's not a 9-to-5 office job, and there's always something new and exciting going on.
So the ownership group, obviously I've met Jordan and know a little bit about his background, but who else is involved?
So there's quite a big ownership group, and it's kind of spanned across the U.S. So we have guys, two of the the principals on our board of directors. We have John Burbank, who's one of the owners at the Golden State Warriors. He's on the board at the Golden State Warriors. He owns Principal Passport Capital. Nick Swimmern, who is also a Golden State Warriors owner, a minority owner at Swansea. Nick was one of the original founders of Zappos.com. Brett Johnson, who's one of the owners at Phoenix Rising and owns a company called Benevolent Capital. Jordan Gardner's an owner. Harry Tao, who's Golden State Warriors owner. We have another owner that's involved with LAFC. So it's Shashi Vashwani, who's a good friend of ours, who owns the Laredo Heat. I know you've seen the PDL and NPSL. The Vashwani family has been very influential in this group as well. But yeah, it's a fantastic ownership group. There's another guy named Joey Elwood that owns Goatee Records. But the group itself has been amazing and very supportive. And really, the interesting thing is they've done a really nice job of just staying hands off and saying, look, here's the capital to go do what you guys need to do and go get it done. And it's been nice because despite the difficulties that we've had, we're sitting here today with, a 6 and an 8 point lead on our divisions respectively. So the first team's doing just fantastic things right now. It's very exciting.
But what do they want? So all these owners, millionaires, billionaires, whatever they are, like what do they actually want? I know it's been pretty clear out there that you want to develop American talent, but what is the ultimate goal with this?
I think anytime you invest in sports, it's got to be more than just looking for, X amount on the return. Let's be honest. We're a second.
I don't even mean financials. I mean, what is
no, I think you have to have a passion for the sport and a passion for this type of project, because it's not happened a lot, right? We're a hands-on group working in Europe, and it's arguably the first of its kind. It's not normal. So these guys they're soccer fans. They're guys that are fans of Jordan. He's done the narrative of the club and the vision of the club. And I think they just want to see if the project can take off. We obviously want to get a platform and create a platform for some good young Americans. Look, even that's been tougher than we expected. It's we have a couple.
Why?
It's hard. I think the football is better, technically there than people realize. Even in the second division, which is the third tier of football in Denmark. Look, the guys there's good players. It's not, 18, 19-year-olds not just going to go to jump into Europe and crack in the first team. It takes time, and it takes energy, and it takes, it takes a certain willpower to be able to do that. So
how many Americans are in not in the first team, but throughout the whole club? How many is there?
We have a couple now. So we have, we'll get Chris Cortez eligible in this next window that we're very excited about. I think Chris is going to really impact the first team. He's got a real unique ability to score goals. He's a big body. He's experienced. He had a great run with Phoenix Rising a couple years ago, and then jumped over to another foreign team. It didn't work out, but we've got Chris in camp. We were really unlucky not to get him eligible for the first half of the season.
Why was that? Do you mind me asking?
No, just some FIFA, some transfer regulations. We just had some. Yeah, it was just working through the DBU. We just had a couple. We just couldn't get him in, eligible in time in the transfer window. So we're excited about him, and we have a couple young kids that have come out of college that are, some North American kids that, they're doing okay, but it's difficult. It's and especially when you're involved with a first team that's winning, right? We have a team that's doing really well right now. So opportunities for these young guys, it gets a little bit tougher for them to crack in.
So it was a good little segue there about talking about college. Funnily enough, that's what I'm going to talk to you about. So obviously the college soccer thing, you've got a little bit of history in that, and you mentioned there with the Helsingør, you got a few players come from that. So is one of the main target groups is college players, or is it just obviously it's one of many, I understand that, but kind of give me your thoughts on recruiting from the college scene, whether it's, you can say positives, negatives, whatever. This is an open forum.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely been, look, college soccer. I'm passionate about college soccer. I always have been. And I had such a good experience playing myself. And now, for me to be able to go and, I've been in four or five different universities and just had such amazing experiences there. And I know the talent. Ultimately, I know the talent. I know the coaching level. I know the facilities. I don't think people sometimes realize just how good it is in the States. So, no, I'm a huge proponent of college soccer. I still have deep ties in the game. And, as soon as I got hired into this project, I immediately started talking about, I think I still think it's an area that we can't overlook. I still think you can get legitimate professional players out of the college game. And from day one, I've made presentations about a couple programs that I really want to get going. And obviously one of those, was a project we started with you, but no, I think the college game is still very viable. I think there's a lot of coaches out there that are doing fantastic jobs at developing players, even though their hands are tied behind their back half the year.
Yeah.
And
14th of December, dead period.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. But I'll continue to look into the college game and try to find and identify players that we feel can help us for sure.
So what, in terms of the college stuff, obviously my 2 pennies here. My main job is helping guys get into the college game. And it's changed over the last 5-10 years being involved with this job, where a lot of guys went into the MLS, got drafted, but you see what happens now with the passing on the drafts, stuff like that. So it's kind of changing for me from what I'm seeing. It's becoming more of it sounds kind of weird this, but an international holding pen where the best American players are kind of bypassing the college game, which is understandable with the MLS academies and stuff. But you find a lot more international players are going over there, like higher level ones. Like on our books, we've got international level players who 10 years ago would never even consider the US. And so what's happening now is the college game is becoming like probably the best area of 18 to 22 year olds in the world, kind of just below that professional mark. So basically, right. Okay. So what would you change in the college game, given you're the new head of the NCAA, NAIA, JUCO, whatever? What would you change to make things better? Because obviously things are changing. There's a lot of rules and regs, and a lot of the best Americans are bypassing college now. But what would you change to make it better for everyone?
Right now you hit the nail on the head. There's just too much oversight. There's too many rules, too many regulations. It's it sometimes, in the college game, it just feels absurd. I'll give you an example. When I was at St. Mary's here in San Antonio, I wanted to create a program where I could just get to know my players better. So I created a program called Coffee with Coach, and basically handed all of our players a flyer, and it said, hey, this is good for coffee with Coach anytime you want. And we left it open to have any discussion that the players want, right? So it's basically like, hey, I want to go talk to Coach about my my private life. I want to go talk about my last game, anything they wanted. I felt like it's really important that we get to know athletes and we get to know them at their level. So it's not in my office. It's not it's not about their performance. It's in a chilled environment with
and everyone listening to this right now is saying, what a great idea. I'm thinking like,
Coffee with Coach idea. Call me, I'll tell you all about it. Now the problem with Coffee with Coach is now all of a sudden your compliance director comes in and says, well, this could we're looking at this as like added benefits. So now all of a sudden for me to do Coffee with Coach, I have to get approval. I have to write the program up. I have to get approval from the university and the conference. I have to I have to write down the name and the location and the time of every time I have a coffee with a player, and then I have to attach the receipt and get approval for each coffee meeting. So it's times like that when you go, okay, this is out of hand. I want to go. I've recruited this kid. He puts everything he can into so many hours working with me. I just want to go buy this kid a coffee, and those are the steps I have to go through to go through this program. So for me, it was almost at that point, it's like, okay, I still did it, but it was so much work just to, and look, most of the kids took their coffee on the Starbucks on campus. So we're not even talking about, taking a kid to a fancy dinner or anything. It's just simply buying a coffee and having a conversation with the kid. But that's the type of work that's behind it. So to answer your question, I think the regulations, that's just one small example. I had another example of it when I was at Lubbock Christian. I had a kid, a great African kid came in, no family in the United States, got kicked in the jaw during one of our games, had to go to the hospital, had to get his jaw surgery, got it wired shut. And I was there for the surgery, and then they took him back to his dorm room, and I mentioned to our compliance director that I was going to bring him some protein drinks and go visit him, and they wouldn't let me. They said they had to write into the conference to get permission before I could go bring a kid some protein drinks when his jaw was wired shut. So I had to wait for another day to get permission to bring in some milkshakes. So it's things like that that really, really hammer home sometimes, just the basics of connecting with people and taking care of people. But, if I was back to your question, and look, if I came in and took over the NCAA, I would do exactly what the Division I guys are trying to do right now. They've been fighting. I just got off the phone with Jeremy Gunn today and at Stanford, and Shasha and these guys have been fighting really hard to extend this season for the Division I athletes. So I think it goes up for vote in the spring and April, I think. But look, it's just not fair what these guys are being forced to do in a 3-month period. Playing 20 to 25 games with a preseason. The footballing culture in America has changed. People aren't dumb. They know that you just can't beat the crap out of kids like we're doing right now, and that's essentially what they're doing. It's creating more injuries. It creates more stress. It's just not good for kids to be cramming that much work with no recovery into essentially a 3-month season.
So you're in favor of like the 9-10 month season then?
100%. What it lets them do is take a proper build up in the preseason, so you can work on this foundation of fitness and build up to it, and 1 game a week, so they're not missing as much class. There's adequate recovery time. We know you can't recover. Look, the magic mark for recovery is 72 hours. So these guys, minimum of 48, and there's not a lot of college kids that are even getting a minimum of 48 hours recovery between matches. So all you're doing is you're stressing bodies, you're putting, heavy workloads on kids that it's just not fair to them. So then all of a sudden you wonder why we're seeing, ankles and ACLs every season in college soccer. It's, we're just, beating these kids up. And then on top of that, they're classes and doing homework. No, sorry, I'm ranting, but at the end of the day, we need to take care of our kids. We need to take care of the athletes, and we need to extend the season and give them a proper developmental, chance at things.
No, I was just going to say 2 things really. One, Bobby Clark, obviously on the previous podcast, he was against the 9-month season, which I was really surprised by. He was kind of like, no, the spring's really, we like the spring as it is. It's kind of take it easy. People can prove themselves for the fall. People get a chance, and so on and so on. And he was like not dead against it, but he was against it. He said, I've never really mentioned it to anyone before, so I'm not in the game anymore, really. Mm-hmm. So I was really surprised by that. The second thing I was going to ask was, do you think because the college games, I mean, when we try and recruit international people and they're like, so tell me about the season, you're like, well, preseason starts beginning of August, and you can be done by November. I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. And it's kind of a weird sell, but you obviously tell them like, look, when it finishes, you're happy. you're ready to finish. Like, you look forward to Christmas where you can just relax and stuff like that. But the reason I'm saying that is, do you think it's one of the reasons why there's not as many kids coming out of college turning pro? Like, because one of the things every day, like, everyone thinks turning professional is just an easy, like, it's easy. Just, I'm going to turn pro. I'm going to turn pro. I'm going to turn pro. It's not easy anywhere in the world, whether that's Denmark, England, US, whatever. But do you think the college game's kind of killing people to turn pro, or do you think it's kind of cutting out the weak? I don't know. Like, I'm looking at it from a different angle, really.
No, it's clear. Look, it's clearly hurting. If you're a young player in the United States and you want to go, your aspirations are to play professionally, there's not much of an argument. You can go over here and play 23 matches in 3 months, or you can go, with a professional club and be on the ball and develop 50 matches over the course of the whole year with proper recovery and proper proper training methods and things like that. Yeah, I think the NCAA is going to have to adapt to to the way things are going, or I think they'll just I think it'll become a dinosaur in soccer. I think more and more kids will start looking at the professional route, the USL route, the MLS route, the foreign route. It's just it just doesn't make sense on a developmental model to cram that much football into such a short season. It just doesn't make sense.
I think when some money gets pumped into, like, for example, if USL, they say, look, don't go to college, come, we'll play in our season, it'll run all year round, but we'll pay for your degree. You can do the degree during the day as well. We'll pay for your degree. So you can play USL and do that. I think that's what's going to kind of have to shake things up a little bit. I don't think anything will change apart from maybe they'll turn like some of the conferences at D1 level to like 10-month, 9-month seasons. But junior college, NAIA, stuff like that, they don't have the facilities and resources to kind of do it. So it's kind of exciting / scary, really, for the next 5-10 years. See what's going to happen with it. But
yeah, that's really interesting, and that's already happening. Like the MLS, there's MLS teams that are covering college tuition now. And then we've had a couple kids through Helsingør that have been offered lifetime deals for Division I. So essentially they get a lifetime education guarantee as long as they play one complete season in college soccer. So it's almost like that one and done thing, which
really, tell me about that. Yeah. I've never really heard that before.
Yeah. And I I'm sure a lot of people don't want to talk about it these days, but look, there's plenty of kids that are going and playing 1 year of college soccer, but they have 4 years guaranteed of education. So you're and then take off, but they're still guaranteed their education. I'm assuming a university would do that because they hope to get them in and show them, hey, look, you want to be here, and the retention's got to be a big focus with those kids. But it doesn't change the fact that that it's actually happening now. So I think even some of the bigger universities are realizing, like, look, if we want to compete with to get the top talent, the top kids, we're going to have to make some changes. And a lot of the top schools are, especially state schools. I think some of the schools like take Stanford's and some of these schools that are they're so amazing on an educational level. They're always going to get, I think, quality players. I don't think that's going to change. But in the overall landscape, I think the NCAA is going to have to. I think they're going to have to adapt. I guess that would be the best word. They're going to have to find a way to adapt a little bit. Or look, I think college soccer is always going to be around. I just think the quality of it's going to weaken a bit. You think? If they don't adapt to a year, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a shame, really, because they've got such an opportunity where more and more people know about it as well. And obviously, I'm being a little bit biased here because that's kind of what I do. But it's kind of like more and more people are interested in it and seeing this like on social media, like, hey, what's this thing in the US? Because kids get released at 18 in Europe and stuff, and they have no idea what to do. So they go to the US, but they have an opportunity to turn that like the college scene into the best league in the world. Like just get some people on board who know what they're doing. But obviously the NCAA don't want to speak to anyone like, but
I think like I've talked to people though, Chris, and it's like, why, again, I mean, in the NCAA's defense, like why do we have to do it like the rest of the world does? We have a really unique and good thing, and goes back to what we were talking about earlier. That's why this was one of the first presentations I made with FC Helsingør. I came in and asked the question right away the first week I was on the ground. What are we doing with our kids that don't get picked up on a professional contract, right? So we have this group of 17, 18-year-old kids that, they don't get a first-team contract and they're just kind of immediately discarded. Well, I mean, let's be honest, identifying a kid at 18, 19, 20 does not mean they're going to be a successful pro. So many of these kids, and even in our club, are interested here because they can still, get great coaching, play in great facilities, get an education, and get another few years to develop their career. And I think that's another thing you're seeing now is, it is a developmental model for professional football, because some guys aren't ready to go pro at 18 or 19. And if you get in the right program, you can learn how to be a pro. So I do think I do think it'll always be viable. I do think it will. I just think, like I said, I think they're going to have to adapt a little bit if they want to retain the top talent that's in the United States.
So I get asked the question all the time, like, how do you turn pro, like in the US, or even just from US kids? Like, how do you turn pro? Like, what would you like? 2 minutes, like what was a piece of advice you would do for any like US kid, for example? Like what would be the advice for anybody really? Obviously you need the talent. I'm not stupid with that, but say they've got the talent, which pathway would you do? What would you do? DA? Tell me a little bit about it.
Oh man, that's such a loaded question, you know. Now
Sorry.
It really is. So like now you have like, look, there's non-MLS DAs that I think are doing as good or a better job of developing talent than some of the MLS academies, right? So you have that kind of argument going on. And you know,
do you have to play DA though? That's the question I'm going to jump in there with.
I don't think so at all. I honestly still think we have this whole segment of, look, I just spent the weekend or a couple days in Laredo, right? They don't even have a DA. They don't even have an academy down there other than you know, what the Laredo Heat's doing. But you're out there in these border towns and these Hispanic, you know, regions that aren't even being identified. Man, there's some amazing players down there that, you know, they'll end up going pro without even having some of these, you know, pay to play opportunities or academy opportunities. So look, it's a tough question in the United States right now, but there's just so many under identified you know, groups of kids that, you know, frankly, we're just not doing a good job of in the identification process. But how do you go pro? Look, it's something we talk about, you know, when I was talked about it, you know, day in and day out. If you want to be a pro, act like a pro. So you have to start looking at, like, you know, what's a professional do? You know, they're gonna perfect their trade. They're gonna change the way that they treat their body and what they eat and what they drink, and they're gonna change their habits, and they're gonna be on time, and they're gonna understand that, you know, the team is more important and more valuable than the individual. So, you know, despite, you know, you starting or not starting, you have to fight through those. And if you're not a starter, then that's on you. Get better. You have to put yourself in, I think, in situations that aren't comfortable. I think a lot of kids say, "Wow, I want to be I want to be a standout player on this, you know, really, really poor team. I'd rather have the attention there than really putting yourself in some situations that get you out of your comfort zone and really challenge you." So, you know, if you're a young kid and you're in college, yeah, you need to be pushing yourself in any way that you can, and you know, acting like a pro. You know, now that I'm in a professional environment and in Europe, you're around these guys day in and day out. They show up to work. They show up on time. They're bought in. They treat their bodies really well. They're, you know, they always are out working on, you know, perfecting their craft and their trade. And you just don't see enough of that. And the interesting thing is that so many times the elite talent and the talented kids when they're younger aren't the ones that end up making it as pros. It's a lot of times the blue collar guys, the guys that grind, the guys that don't take no for an answer, and the guys that, you know, just grind day in and day out. A lot of those guys are the ones that end up making it and doing really well. So I don't think there's an answer. If it was that easy, we'd be able to write a book about it.
Well, yeah, there is no answer.
But yeah, I would say,
what do you look,
you know, you want to be
for?
a pro, act like a pro.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say. What are you looking for? Obviously, talent ID is one of your main things. Like if you're looking at college players, especially now for Helsingør, what do you look for if you're going to recruit somebody out of college?
I think we would look for, I mean, you always have to look at the situation you're in. It's been interesting now that we're in Denmark because, you know, I think everybody's got this glamorous view of how the game should be played. You know, everybody should, you know, have 400, 500 passes a game, and passing percentages are perfect, and we're, you know, knocking the ball over the park. But, you know, I watched a game this morning that was on, you know, Western Denmark, and the field was flooded, and, you know, it's 22 guys playing direct and, you know, crash up, bang up football. And it's one of the top teams at this level in Denmark. Right. So it's not, you know, I think professionally speaking, and depending on where you're at, you know, there's this idealistic way that you want to play. But I think we're looking for guys that right now that would fit into what we're trying to do in Denmark. And that's probably trying to find this balance between playing really attractive football and being able to go out on the road and win when conditions are difficult and pitches are horrible and teams, park the bus on us. So, finding guys that, can fit into what's going to make us successful right now.
Is there any college players you're looking at right now? How are you kind of keeping your eyes on them?
Yeah, we have identified a couple college players and a couple that have just recently left college and maybe have 1 or 2 years of USL experience. I think there's a group of players there that can really come over and do well. So yeah, we're in the middle of identifying those kids right now, and the winter window is short, so we'll probably make a couple invitations in the next few weeks for some players to get over. But we'll definitely open it up and take a larger, more expansive look as we head into the summer window.
So I'm just going to ask. There's a couple of questions I wrote down from other people actually. You were involved with obviously the youth side of things before college, right? In California, a big club, I believe. I may be wrong, but the reason I'm saying that is what do you recommend for kids to get into college? Because what we see from our recruiting point of view is players in the US, obviously the ones who are playing at the DAs, they kind of expect to be recruited. They don't want any help whatsoever. Everyone else is kind of panicking a little bit. There's good players who are missing out because they just literally don't know what to do. Internationally, it's a little bit different. They all get recruiting agencies who can kind of help them. But from a youth point of view, like what in the US probably, what would you recommend people do to try and get into the right situation for these?
I still think that look, soccer in America is just a little bit different. We haven't always had the top 100 list, top 200 identified, lists and things like that. My biggest advice is, look, you have to sell yourself. You should be calling and emailing. I've done a lot of presentations about this. Look, I think kids should set out their top 10 programs that they're really interested in, and I think they should do research on those programs, right? Like, do they offer studies that I'm interested in? Do they have a staff that I'm interested in? So I think they should identify a top 10 list. Once they've done that, I think they should start selling themselves. Call their top 10 programs, email those coaches, and get out to ID camps. I think there's a lot of misconception now that these ID camps are just simply to generate money for college programs, but I 100% disagree with that. We used our ID camps at every stop I've been at. Man, we've signed kids out of every ID camp that we didn't know about. So, you need to get out and get in front of those coaches and don't take no for an answer. You keep emailing, you try to get them out to watch you. And if you get those, just like anything in life, if you get a little where you can go to an ID camp, or maybe a college or a staff member comes out and watches you play, you need to perform, right? You need to get on their radar any way it takes. And then as soon as that conversation starts, you already know what they're going to ask right away. Talk to me about your grades, talk to me about your SAT scores. And so the things at school need to be in line as well. It's not just, being a good player. And then obviously, I think a lot of young kids these days over the character. Every kid I've recruited, I'm calling character references. I want to talk to your coach about, what kind of person you are, your social media. I want to see how you, when you meet me, do you look me in the eye and shake my hand? Do you, when I call you, are you engaged in the call? Are you, what kind of person are you? A lot of times I like to watch, I'll go watch a game and a kid would, say, hey, sorry, we lost today. I said, and I'm thinking, no, man, that's the best thing I could have seen, because I saw how you reacted when you lost, and I liked it. And other kids, we're looking at these things every day. So yeah, make a top 10 list, get out, sell yourself, make sure your grades are as good as you can get them. And think about your character, every day you're out and about.
So what happens if the top 10 list is, because we ask them to do a top 10 list, and it's always, they always put Stanford. So Jeremy, who you're speaking to earlier, like he must get thousands of emails an hour. Stanford, Wake Forest, UCLA, the usuals are on there, but people are not realistic because they haven't got a benchmark to compare themselves to. So like, I mean, what do you say about that really? Because it's like sometimes your top 10 list is not always right for you. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think you have to be realistic, right? I mean, that was one of the things we did so well when I was in Division II. It was like, look, we go contact all the kids that we really like, and all those kids are going to say, "No, I'm going Division I." So if you just hang out long enough, they're going to end up, coming back to you because they're not all going Division I. But you have to be realistic, and I know that's one thing I liked about SRUSA is, so many of these recruiting companies aren't even realistic, or they'll call me and say, "Oh, look, coach, we have a kid that's perfect for your program." But you don't even know anything about my program. I've never even talked to you. I think that's one area that you guys do a good job of is you evaluate players. And, I think that's, in your case, that's your job, right? That's your job is to help identify. They may have a top 10 list, but if we've evaluated you and feel like you fit into a certain slot, then I think people need to be realistic about those things. So, we all want to go.
I'll give you the $20 for being nice.
What's that?
I'll give you the $20 for being nice there. Thank you.
No, there's a reason I called you when I wanted to get this program in Denmark started. So
you were lonely, right?
Exactly. You were closest to me.
Yeah, no, that's cool. All right, we'll kind of wrap up shortly. I know you've got a tea party to go to. you got a tea party to go to shortly.
No, I have plenty of time.
All right, no, it's cool. So one of the my last 2 points on my little notebook here, really. These podcasts are always like, hey, let's talk really serious about college soccer, and like, oh my god, like, yeah, like talking this tone of voice. Tell me some I listened to the last podcast and I enjoyed it, and I was like, oh, I should have asked him some stories. Tell me some stories. Are there any funny stories at college? Anything that's, I don't know. Is there anything that from college days or any particular time in your career that's gone, that'll make me laugh? I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
Laugh?
No, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, is there anything that's just like, I should have prepped you with this. I apologize, but I just thought about it now. I was thinking, yeah, I mean, we're getting some good stuff here. I'm writing it down, but thinking, hey, any funny stories? If not, don't worry, I can move on quickly.
No, there's just so many. I mean, so many stories. It's just, for me, somebody asked me the other day, do I miss coaching? And I genuinely do, but it's just that locker room atmosphere and, being around the guys with the jokes and the chit chat every single day. I just, I love that part of I love that part of it. So, my first coaching job was at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical. In Arizona, and tell you, those are some of the smartest guys you've ever been around. And it was funny because I was at my first preseason with them. We had a great preseason, and I took them out to the pool on Embry-Riddle's campus, and we were doing a cool down recovery workout in the pool, and I had the guys all jogging around in a circle, and they had their shirts off, the sun was out, and I'm thinking, man, you guys have it great. And they're all talking, and I hear them run by, and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? What you're going to do tonight, or the girls you want to see, and any of that? And I'm like, no, coach, we were just trying to figure out the drag coefficient of 28 guys in a pool. And I just remember going, God, what did I get myself into? It was one of the, and that's a group of guys that, look, there's a guy at NASA, there's 2 fighter pilots, there's a helicopter pilot. I mean, just an incredible group of guys. But I just remember, just going, wow, I'm surrounded by guys that can send a rocket to the moon in their midday class, but they can't figure out 4v4 plus 2. So it was. It was an interesting group, but yeah, it was a pretty funny story. I still remember that one.
Who's the best college player you've ever coached, whether talent wise or whatever? Like, who's somebody that stands out? You're like, yeah, I miss that guy.
Gosh, so many. At Embry-Riddle, I recruited a kid named Isaac Sanchez, who ended up being an All-American there. He played for me in the PDL and made the top 11 of the PDL. So Isaac had a great career. Billy Forbes played for me at Lubbock Christian. Billy's had a great professional career and a great international career as well. So I had the opportunity to coach him at Turks and Caicos. And look at this last job, St. Mary's. Pato Botello was an All-American last year, and that's a kid that I really, really took under my wing and worked really hard for a couple of years with our high percentage finishing program, and he's really excelled. He went on to the USL2 this year and started scoring goals, and he's got a couple new offers and opportunities now. So those are some of the guys that come to mind. But man, so many great ones, and the crossover in the PDL has been great too, because I've had the opportunity to coach a lot of pros. There's a lot of guys that I worked with in Midland that are out playing professionally now. So it's we've been real fortunate in that area.
Anybody you've missed out on, you were like, oh crap, wish we would have got it.
Yeah, always. I had a kid in Arizona that I had passed on, and I didn't quite think he had the grit. He was a striker, and I just didn't think he would do the dirty work. But he went on to a rival school and became an All-American, leading goal scorer.
What do you know, eh? What do you know?
Yeah, exactly, right. So that was definitely one I missed out on. But I think that's been one of the things we've always done really well. Taking over some of the absolute worst college programs in America, and we've turned them all around. And that only happens when you get the right people on the bus and identify.
Would you go back into college then? Like,
yeah, I would.
Let's talk about your future. Like, obviously, you're enjoying your job now. I'm not trying to make you leave, but would you ever go back? What would you? Well, not to say what would you go. Which job would you go into? I'm sure you don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but anything.
No. Look. I love the college game. I would go back, but it would have to be it would have to be a good situation for me. I've been at I took over one of the worst NAIA programs in America. I took over, San Francisco State when I took them was, arguably the worst Division II program and the worst on the West Coast. And, even this last job at St. Mary's was, was quite a mess when we got there. So, I think I've probably made a name for myself about, turning around some of these worst programs, but it's also, it's a lot of work in it, and it takes a lot out of you. So I would love to go back to college someday. I can see myself doing that, but it would have to be at a program that's, that supports soccer and genuinely, gets behind all the programs and all the athletes. And so, yeah, I could see myself doing that down the road, when things are right. But I love the college game and I love the college experience, and I love working with that age group.
Yeah. And jobs usually more stable as well. You've got.
Yeah, but look, I think that's a thing a lot of guys don't understand. A lot of people don't understand is that you do some of these. A lot of these jobs are at will employment, right? So it's just you're not getting offered multiple year contracts. Look, the big Division I's are, but outside of a handful of the top 20, 30, 50 jobs in America, a lot of these guys are going out and grinding just 1 year at a time. And that's what I was doing through some of these Division II jobs is you're never offered multiple year contracts. You're not, it's hard. It's not a whole lot different than being in the professional ranks in some senses. So you perform or, you could potentially be out. So
there's no science behind it. Like I genuinely see, obviously from this side of things, like the coaches who are all over the world, like looking under every rock, recruiting, like just everywhere, try to find players in every single position. And then you see them like the year or two after, like flourishing. And you're like, I love it. I love seeing that sort of thing. I'm like, you know what? Fair play to you. You've worked your balls off. And it's coming to fruition. Then you see the guys who just don't do anything, sit back and then do bad. And I'm just like, I enjoy. Obviously, I enjoy anybody in life doing well, but I enjoy seeing people from this side of things. I see directly people working hard, and then obviously everything comes well in the end. So, from your point of view, like what's your What's your short to medium to long term future? What do you see? Obviously, you don't want to leave Helsingør. I'm not saying that, because the reason I asked that, Matthew Barnes, is I've seen on Twitter San Antonio FC. You've been linked with the job there, USL. I'm not saying it's true, because it could be just a guy who's written it, who just put your name out there. But yeah, I mean, I could have even made that up, but I haven't. But is there anything you want to do? Anything you want to take off?
Yeah, I just received a screenshot of that same tweet. So I think that's a group here in San Antonio that covers the team and all that. So
Did you create that group? Yeah,
I did not. I did not. So that would be really interesting if I did, but I'm not self-touting out there. So no, I did see that tweet, and I have not officially spoken to SAFC, but I'm really happy with what I've done. Look, I've got to do some things, Chris, in the last couple of years. Probably one of the only Americans ever to lead a national team. And I don't know of another American that's ever been a sporting director with a club in Europe. I'm doing some really, things I never thought I would ever get to do. So, do I miss coaching? Yes. Do I think my next opportunity, if I go back into coaching, will be I'm guessing it'll be in the USL. I would definitely, like to do that someday. I'd like to challenge myself in that. I've found success at every level, and that's my next progression as a head coach. So yeah, I would be interested at some point coaching in the USL. I'm at college at some point down the road as well. But right now I'm blessed, beyond belief, being able to do some things in Europe with this project that I'm just so excited about. It's just it's been an incredible ride, and I've just been super lucky to be doing what I'm doing today.
Awesome. That's it's a very generic answer, but it's good enough for me. But I'll tell your Twitter account that that tweet is not real. So
yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Yeah, last thing. I just thought I'd put it out there. Obviously, you got the tea party to go to for your daughter's birthday, but obviously 14th of December, we've got the event that we kind of do with you guys. I thought I'd plug this in there. Obviously, unfortunately, due to the dead period, no Division 1 coaches are allowed, but everyone else is allowed. Can you tell us a little bit about that event?
Yeah, look, this is one of the first things I did. Like I was telling you earlier, when I dropped into Helsingør, I wanted to create some type of event or a platform or a bridge for our academy kids that don't get offered professional contracts. I wanted to give these guys an opportunity to extend their career and find some other bridges to help them continue to develop. So that initiated a presentation with all of our mother clubs. I met with all of our 18, 19 mother clubs and presented the idea of the potential to go to America and play collegiately as well. Really well recepted, and obviously you came and spoke on that night. So look, this is kind of my brainchild. It's something I'm really passionate about. That we're doing this. So on the 14th, we're gonna have an elite event, and we're gonna host it at the new stadium. We just opened up our new stadium in Helsingør, and I think we realize it is a dead period for the Division 1 coaches, which is a bummer for us. But we still felt it was the only date we could get on the calendar, and we wanted to get it started this year. So we'll film it, and we'll pass along information to anybody that's interested, and then. Look, 2 weeks ago, I had an email from Tom Vernon, who's the principal and CEO at Nordsjælland. For those that know or are familiar with Nordsjælland, it's one of the top youth academies in the world. It's one of the top youth academies in Denmark. They play with typically the youngest or second youngest team in Europe. Tom also runs the Right to Dream Academy in Africa, so they have a fantastic pipeline of kids that they're helping find professional routes, and part of what Tom does is look, they're trying to develop people as a whole. So they've already been in the process and have placed several Right to Dream kids and Nordsjælland kids in different universities in America. So Tom reached out and said that they want to be part of this as well. So that just gave me kind of further motivation to continue working on this project. So Northland will send a team to the event. We will have our under 19s, our under 17s from FC Helsingør, and we've scheduled a couple other professional clubs. Will be sending their players who are college eligible to the one-day event. So, look, I'm so excited that we're able to do this, to offer this to our kids, and other people are showing such a great interest. And I'm glad that, honestly, that we could do it with SR USA and with you, Chris, because it means a lot to me that you bought into the project as well.
No, I appreciate you even asking us. We're really excited for it. So, yeah, even that week I might be doing more traveling than you do, not than normal.
Yeah.
Florida and Spain and Denmark. So that's kind of a typical week for you by the sounds of it. But yeah, that's cool. Okay, we'll wrap up there. Apart from the only question I didn't ask you, but I'll just say it anyway. Nuno Gorgel, who was your assistant one time,
Yep.
Snow College. Is that Snow College now? Sorry. He said, "Is he the best looking assistant coach you've ever had?"
Oh,
Portuguese
man,
wonder.
just ask Nuno next time you see him about his first presentation I had him do in the locker room in the PDL. So that'll be an interesting story when you talk to Nuno. I love Nuno, man. He's done such a good job with the men and women at Snow. He was a great assistant for me in the PDL, and he's a great player, a great human being. He's found a lot of success in college, and
Yeah.
I can't say enough, handsome man that he is.
Oh God, your microphone went crazy then. It must have been combusting. Right, cool. That's it. Well, thanks. I appreciate your time. Obviously, a lot of people are interested in listening to you about this one. So hopefully it's been a useful hour, maybe just about an hour. So thanks for everything, Matt. And obviously I'm sure I'll speak to you tomorrow, but that's the podcast over and done with.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I really enjoyed that. And, we could have probably talked for 3 hours, but, thanks for everybody for listening. And, I'm always out there. If people have questions or want to talk to me or want to, if we have college athletes that we legitimately need to take a look at. And I do have a handle on social media, Blue Collar.
I was going to say, sorry, I missed that one. Thanks for telling me that.
Yeah.
What's your handle?
No, it's okay. Just, we started that when I got the national team job. I just, I've always felt like that's kind of what I've found my success in, is working hard and being blue collar. So we started that to kind of follow my journey in the last couple of years. So yeah, if you're interested, blue collar footballer. And thanks again, Chris. Really appreciate you and the services that you do for kids.
Right, guys, really hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it myself. Learned a few things I didn't know about Matt. Obviously, we're working on a few projects together, which I mentioned. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys did too. It's good to hear how people kind of progress and do different jobs and kind of, he didn't really get too into the nitty gritty of what he's done in his career, but he was a teacher and moved into coaching, and obviously he's one of the very few American head coaches of the national team. And now he's probably one, if not the only one, a sporting director type role as an American. So yeah, really exciting, and obviously it'd be great to see what happens with his career. You never know, the San Antonio job might come up. We had a little joke about that. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Really appreciate Matt giving his time up on his daughter's birthday. So yeah. So we've got a few more coming up, which I mentioned in the intro, but obviously to keep track of our podcast when they come live, obviously try and follow the sports recruiting accounts on Twitter and Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, everything like that. Just search for SI USA or Sports Recruiting USA. You should find us. Even just if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and everything. Just feel free to add me, and I'm sure you'll see me spamming your timelines with when we've got these things coming live. Also, we'd really appreciate as well if you can leave us a review. We don't know how we're doing. I'm not the greatest interviewer, but I've got the short straw, unfortunately, and to be fair, I really enjoy it speaking to these sort of people. So yeah, if you can leave us a review, even just send us private feedback, how we can improve. Also, leave us some, if you want to just subscribe, basically. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and on iTunes and YouTube and everything like that. It does help our podcast get seen by more people. So I really appreciate if you can do that, and even tell your friends who might be in the game or just want to hear about it. I mean, we get a lot of people listening to this podcast who are actually not even in college soccer. There's guys who are just coaches in certain parts of the world, guys who just like to hear about, learn about new parts of the world. So yeah, that's it for me. Plenty of talking from that. I appreciate you taking your time to listen to this podcast. Hopefully it's filled up a void of a long drive or a commute to work or just a spare hour and a little bit. So yeah, thanks guys. We've got a few more coming up in the next few weeks, so hopefully you'll hear from us then. Take care.